This is eDiscovery After Hours.
After hours. I always say after dark.
That's season 2.
Welcome
Season 2.
to this is a big one, right? Like, you guys made eDiscovery After Hours happen. We're 10 years in to Mattingly, Burke, Cohen, Biederman, and Proteus. We got John Mattingly, Hamish Cohen, Sean Burke, and Ray Biederman. I think most people probably know you guys, but just in case. And let's rewind a little bit. I want to start at the very, very beginning. I want you guys to take me back to the very first spark of starting your own law firm and tell me a little bit about who had the idea, where did it come from, and what led to you guys actually pulling the trigger on it.
Well, that's Sean.
It's Sean's fault.
Yeah.
So, not entirely, but mostly. So, Hamish and I used to ride the Monon to work and back, on a daily basis. And when you're doing that, you've got maybe 45 minutes, to and from work to talk about hopes and dreams and frustrations and all those sort of things. And so we did, right? And in that process, I started talking about what I wanted to do when I grew up and how I wanted to be sort of the captain of my own destiny. And, Hamish, obviously felt similarly. And then turns out that we weren't that inventive when we started looking for our, wild frontiers, because both Ray and John were also at the same firm at the law firm and happened to eat lunch with us every day. And so when we started talking to them about some of our discussions, that's how it went from 2 to 4, and that was kind of the spark.
I love it. Do you remember?
It really went from 2 to 3, and then they were trying to decide whether I could be a 4th, and so then they had to. I think I had a number of lunches where I just thought they were regular lunches. But apparently they were like testing it out to see whether or not I was somebody who could be trusted and would be.
So you had a little mini interview process.
A mini interview
that
you
didn't even know
about, right?
So what was the key thing about you guys and like agreeing that you were all going to get in the boat and row the same direction, and like what characteristics and what made it happen that you were the 4? Why wasn't there a 5th? Why did John make it in? What were the characteristics there?
I voted for John. I thought he was great.
We keep trying to decide if we should go back to 3. So I don't know if he's fully in, but in for now.
Yeah.
So one of the things that happened as we got closer to making the decision is that Ray was approached by sort of a headhunter saying, we would like you to open up an eDiscovery shop in Indianapolis and be the CEO. And it was primarily going to be a managed review shop. And so that took the discussion into a completely different vector. And then I don't know who it was, but one of us said, why don't we do both? Right. And as soon as that happened, honestly, that kicked things up to 11. And we're like, I don't know why that did it, but that was the thing that really got us serious. And that the rest is history.
My sense was, and you could correct this if this was wrong, Ray, but my sense was, and you will, yeah. My sense is that we were either going to do something and do something collaborative, all of us, or you were going to leave and potentially do that third party. I mean, that was a serious offer that you were considering.
It was a serious offer. I don't know if I would have actually done it, but it was a serious offer.
Okay, well, he told me he wouldn't know.
That was part of the negotiation.
Part of the negotiation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from the jump, it was both. There was never a back and forth. It was always going to be Proteus and NBCB.
That's right.
That's true from the very beginning.
I love that. That's amazing. So 10 years into this, and Hamish, I don't know why I feel like this is going to be a perfect question for you. 10 years into this, chemistry is a huge deal. How have you guys managed to not kill Biederman throughout this 10 years of process and get along so well all these years?
Every now and then you're the Biederman. So it's like an old marriage at this juncture. We've spent a lot of time together. We've always treated each other with kindness on a fundamental level. We're awful at a surface level to one another, but fundamentally we treat each other with kindness and respect, and I think we trust each other, except for John.
We've all been through a ton of stuff together, and even when we start off with our partner meetings, we start off with a session called the airing of the grievances, where we start off by basically yelling at each other and then getting out on the table everything that makes us upset about everybody else. Now, most of these things we've all aired at different points, at some point during the weekday, but we get those things out and then we immediately then put them behind us and try to work forward through the rest of the meeting.
Even with Biederman?
Even with Biederman, yeah.
I love it. Yeah. That was my next question is when you do disagree, the most important thing is resolving it. How do you figure out how to resolve these issues that may pop up from time to time?
Yeah, so I think there's, there's not like a panacea for something like that, right? It's a process. And we understand, we make sure to get it out, that we talk about it and don't let it just sit in the background forever. And then after we talk about it, we make sure to check in with each other about progress that we're making or not making towards resolution on things. And obviously I think Hamish's comment about it being a marriage in a way is correct. I mean, they call it partnership for a reason, right? And so we're not always going to agree. On a fundamental level, we agree on the really important and big stuff. And then the day-to-day stuff, there are definitely disagreements about. We just work through them and know that we all are coming from a good place. And we know that we're all trying to get to that same solution that we all agree on. And the path that we take to get there can be different or changing, but we know that we all trust each other enough that we've got each other's best interests in mind. And that's just part of our ethos.
Love it. That's great. What, obviously there's struggles, but then there's a lot of really great things. What are each other's like superpowers or things that they're the best at? Like when you need to lean on one of the other guys, what's Hamish great at? What's John and I don't know, Ray, are you great at anything? We'll figure that out. But what's each other's superpowers?
So I mean, I'll talk on for a couple people. For these three guys, what I think their superpowers are. Ray, we refer to Ray as kind of being the visionary of the group. Ray is somebody who dreams big, and probably a good portion of this, none of this would have really happened. We all, when we took a personality test, all graded out as being reasonably high risk takers. Ray was probably the person who graded the highest in terms of being kind of the visionary person, and he still kind of maintains that role. Hamish, I'll say, Hamish is, I don't know if everybody else does, but I call Hamish kind of the wooden Indian. Hamish is the one it can be stern and can be talking about policy. He's kind of the firm's general counsel, and he operates in a similar role for Proteus as well. And with clients, a lot of times he's constantly talking about compliance and ethics, and he usually does it with kind of a stern look. Somehow that look right there, that look that's on camera right now. Now he's smiling, but and Sean is somebody who I feel like balances out everybody's personalities. He's the person that in some ways can be the peacemaker and also kind of the deal maker with all of us. I mean, he's kind of the whisperer to bring us all together, and that's kind of what I.
Yeah, thanks, John. And I don't know that there's one superpower.
We're just skipping Hamish.
Right?
Bounce it around.
The thing that I think's great about these guys is that they work with more than one speed, right? And they can be whatever you need them to be on a given day. I think we're all really good at what we do. Ray has the ability. He's the best guy that I've ever met in talking to an IT department and a legal department, right? And bridging that gap, right? And that's a superpower he has. But he also, after 10 years of not taking a deposition, has taken 5 depositions in the last month and done an A+ job, right? So I think, it's about changing speeds and about figuring out what needs to be done when, and each of these 3 guys, I jumped with them and they jumped with me. And so if I say, Hamish, I need to go to Maryville tonight and, start trial tomorrow, are you going to be my second? He'd be like, all right, where am I going to meet you, right? And then John, the same thing, right? If, he could be first, second, third, or last, and it doesn't matter. He's there, willing to do what needs to be done, and that's the best thing about it. So I don't know if it's one superpower. I think it's many, and I think we're hopefully better. We're greater than the sum of our parts.
Interestingly enough, we had worked with each other some during Barnes, but we hadn't all worked all in the same matter. So when we had a general sense as to what people's reputations were as attorneys, but we hadn't all worked intimately close together.
Yeah.
I'm just glad after 10 years you're getting over your shyness.
I'm slowly learning to speak out.
learning to speak out.
Yeah, John's superpower is knowing when to talk and when not to talk. He just hasn't come to that second part yet.
Yeah, I agree with what Sean said. And we at Proteus, we call it being foxhole guys or foxhole people that you'd want on your foxhole with you, that you'd go to battle with. And I think, to Sean's point too, we all have, I think, relatively diverse skill sets, and we're all problem solvers. I mean, that's what we do for a living, but we do it within the construct of our business as well, and I think that's really remarkable. I agree that Ray has got that weird lawyer-technician brain. He speaks both languages, which is remarkable, and he is a visionary. I don't know anyone who works harder than Sean. Sean really, I mean, the Maryville example, I'd maybe meet him down there in a couple of days, but he would be there the next morning. He's the hardest working person I know. And John is the immovable object, literally and metaphorically speaking, but he's very principled and very hardworking, and he's a terrific lawyer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I echo a lot of that. One thing I'll say about John is he faces a lot of client situations and opposing counsel situations that are really fraught. I mean, people are frosty and angry, and I mean, just like some of the angriest situations you can imagine and most stressful. And John just comes in with this smile and is just completely disarming. And even if you're angry, I know I've been angry with him, and he'll just have his little smile, and he'll talk to you, and do his little hand motions, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm not so mad anymore, right? And that's an amazing thing. Hamish, in addition to everything else that's been said, is probably one of the most efficient, smartest thinkers that I know. So he will be able to cut through 100 issues very quickly and draft a brief on it and have it in a 90% there shape in just a short amount of time. And it's pretty amazing, his ability to do that. And I also echo Sean being the hardest working person in the business.
When you're not smart, you got to work hard.
Well, he's smart. He's very smart too. Don't get me wrong.
I'm just nice. I want to be smart and hardworking.
Yeah, John's neither of those things. He's just very nice,
nice.
though. He's just a nice guy.
John's got a good personality.
Yeah.
I'm a good team player.
Yeah.
We need those. That's amazing. So let's boil it down to NBCB for a second. What, from a law firm perspective, what was the vision from day one on the type of law firm that you guys wanted to create?
So two things that come to mind. Number one is all for one, one for all, right? And, you hear horror stories about law firms across the country of various sizes, fighting about billing credit and origination credit and things like that. And we did not want to be that, right? And we've not been that. And so that's been the same from the beginning, and that is, I think, true to who we are. That's number one. And then number two, and I think John says this the best, he's like, I want to do the same sophisticated work here that I did in my prior life, right? And that was scary, right? Because we didn't know coming in day one what our clients were going to be, the issues that, were going to present themselves. And I think 10 years in, by and large, we've been able to continue to do the same sophisticated work that we're used to in our careers.
I agree with that. I would also say that one of the things that was kind of a positive aspiration when we started the firm, and something I think that we have lived up to, is that same kind of collaborative partner mentality we've had with each other we've wanted to have that kind of mentality, that same relationship with our clients, and we didn't want to have multiple layers. I mean, our approach has been very technology forward, very kind of stripped down from the law firm sense, where when the clients are dealing with our firm, they're really dealing with the partners and with us. We're not trying to over lawyer things. We're trying to figure out what's the best solution, the best number of people, and usually it's not a lot of people. Usually it's only a couple of people to throw at a particular matter, and frankly, we do that with Proteus too. There is a kind of a problem-solving, collaborative approach to trying to solve legal issues, and it's something that was different, I think, than a lot of different ways that kind of big law approaches things. We've got a kind of a boutique mentality with big law experience.
In the early years, when you're first, getting going, first year or so, what were the biggest challenges you guys had to overcome?
I would say a big challenge the first year was we were split between two different locations. And so law firm was in one site and Proteus was in a different site. And just having, they were what, maybe 1.5 miles apart, 2 miles apart. I mean, it wasn't that big of a difference, but it was like a huge difference on the collaboration that could happen. And you got to remember 10 years ago, there wasn't the Microsoft Teams and Zoom was barely a thing. And so there wasn't that instant type of messaging that you see on a lot of corporations now. And it was pre-COVID, so people didn't really understand what any of that stuff was or how any of it worked. And so just having that distance, I think, caused some strife at the beginning. And then, we'd come together and have lunch, and that was great. But then when we got into the same space, that really helped us mesh ourselves as a firm. And we really grew from that point. I think that was probably one of the biggest things for us.
So, obviously there was anxiety, when you're at a larger firm where you have people that are handling all kinds of different administrative roles. There's always some issues in doing some of those things yourself. Nobody here is particularly shy, and of course what we do for a living is we do a lot of problem solving, and so everybody kind of jumped in and we kind of attacked those things. So that was kind of a positive and actually kind of a fun thing. It's a source of anxiety, making sure that we always had enough work. So that was kind of initially an adjustment, although interestingly enough, we did have a fair amount of work on the law firm side right away. And then fortunately, we got involved in the community pretty quickly for Proteus, doing some presentations, some ICLEF seminars and things. And so Proteus was harder to get going just from the standpoint that nobody was really familiar in the legal community in Indianapolis with kind of the Proteus animal. There were very few other businesses, only a couple, that were doing eDiscovery.
What would you say if 10 years into this, there's 4 folks that are at a firm considering branching off and starting their own law firm? What kind of advice would you give them?
Do it with the right people. I think that's fundamentally, it's not easy, but it's incredibly rewarding and it's a lot of fun. But you've got to do it with the right people. We talked about our superpowers. These are all very bright, hardworking people. I trust them implicitly and explicitly. I believe in this group. Sean talked about our ethos, the all for one for all, our internal ethos. I think that allowed us to build something special because we're collaborative. There's no infighting. We help each other, and that means we provide better services to our clients. So I would say go for it, but make sure you're doing it with the right people.
Yeah, it's huge. It's been cool for me to see, being around so much last year, how close you guys are. I knew you guys way back when, and you were all very friendly. But seeing the friends that you've stayed and been able to continue to be is pretty amazing, and it's a testament to the partnership and the trust and the fact that you've been able to put up with Biederman for this long.
I hope we convey that same mentality, that same kind of friendship mentality with the other partners and other attorneys and support staff here at our firm. I mean, it's kind of a close-knit group, so.
Yeah, I love that. And shifting to Proteus a little bit, like that's a pretty big leap, especially for three of you that weren't quite as deeply involved in eDiscovery as Ray was. What made you think, like, all right, we can do this? This is something that we can absolutely tackle.
Well, I think, I met Ray on a large eDiscovery project, right, where we traveled around the world collecting stuff, put it through the funnel, produced, privilege log, and the whole like, right? So I knew his skill level then, right? Hamish, ran one of the biggest eDiscovery teams that I know of at the firm, right? So I knew that collectively we could do that. So the animal was new in the fact that it was an eDiscovery consultant outside the law firm in Indianapolis as opposed to something internal. So that was new. But in terms of the skill package, I honestly wasn't nervous about that at all.
I'll agree 100% with that. So, I mean, I never, so we had all had significant experience with using eDiscovery in the context of complex litigation. But from interacting with Ray, I had there was no question that Ray was, that Ray understood and was really kind of a pioneer in the eDiscovery field. And so any issues with getting Proteus off the ground, where they were all business issues it was never a skill set issue with that. And actually that was pretty comforting because we wouldn't have done Proteus if we didn't have the right foundation. And Ray was really the right foundation for that.
Look at that.
Wow, it's a lot of responsibility.
It is a lot of responsibility.
On my
It's
shoulders.
impressive.
Jim, could you ask us things that don't look good on Ray?
I'm trying. I'll see what.
Can we keep this interview going?
I could ask you about his jacket. That
we
definitely
could we
doesn't
could
help.
we could play this for my wife. I bet.
He found that on the way in.
I guarantee it. Kind of tying the two together, one thing that I've appreciated about you guys going way back is not every litigator out there, attorney out there, is really willing to embrace the technology. And you guys are obviously amazing at it. In your practice as attorneys, as well as being founders of Proteus, is a testament to your ability to do that. And do you feel like the eDiscovery knowledge you guys have has set you guys apart as attorneys and helps you guys grow the law firm as well?
Yes.
Expand on that. Tell me how and why.
Final answer.
Final answer, yes. I think attorneys tend to be backward-looking, and they're late adopters of technology. And I think it's more than the use of technology. It's just thinking and processing information and being open to new ideas and processes. And I think being good litigators and lawyers has made us better eDiscovery vendor, because we understand that process and we understand ultimately what you're trying to accomplish when you run an eDiscovery project. But conversely, I think dealing with the eDiscovery side and technologists can help but rub off on you as a lawyer and make you more adaptive.
So the answer also is yes from me. John was trying a case at a preliminary injunction stage, sometime this year, and out of nowhere, there was a exhibit that was introduced that was a photo, right? And it was not a good photo for our client's perspective, but immediately John was like, that's not been produced. We need to see the metadata. We need to get in there and dig in through the bits and the bytes to figure out where this came from. And that changed the entire vector of that preliminary injunction hearing, and he ended up winning. And that was, and that was, John didn't have any advance notice of that was going to happen. And then immediately he turned and he made what was potentially a weakness into a positive. So I think that's a concrete example of how, our ability to understand these issues can help us in litigation.
Sean and Hamish and I are all similar ages, and we're kind of in that generation that was kind of the in-between generation. So in law school, we're the in-between generation between doing legal research using the books, and then also having Westlaw. We were kind of taught on both. And we're also kind of the in-between generation for kind of eDiscovery. So, I mean, we started off looking through documents in bankers' boxes, looking at documents for discovery one by one, and then looking at summation, and then kind of seeing kind of the early precursors, whether it was viewpoint. And so, so we can kind of talk about both sides of the eDiscovery history, and so I think that helps us relate to clients at all different kind of age levels, and to be able to talk about that. And obviously, our eDiscovery knowledge, since being associated with Ray and Proteus, is increased exponentially.
Good old summation. You'd love to bring that back, wouldn't you? You want to?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I should keep an archive version of summation available just on my desk to play with.
We
sometimes.
might be able to make that happen. So, is that maybe these things are one and the same, or maybe they're different? But what was a moment in Proteus that you're most proud of, or maybe a moment where you thought, "Holy crap, Proteus made it! Like it's a thing now."
So I guess one of the first moments in that we had this class action case that we had to help figure out what people fit into what bucket as far as dividing up the class into different settlement classes. And a client came to us and said, we've had basically this whole database started as one Excel spreadsheet, and now it is a multi-terabyte server. But at the end of the day, it boils back down to essentially one thing. And we had to, they just gave us a copy of the whole server and gave us the server, the physical server itself. And we had to plug it in and figure everything out. And in doing that, and getting to the result, and then seeing that result actually made it into the news, that was like, oh my gosh, we were part of that. That was like a whole thing that we did. And so that was one of those moments where I said, that's something that the four of us built. We built this thing, we got this to this point, and like we were in the news. Now we weren't personally. That would have been bad.
Which is a good thing, right?
It would have been really bad if we were in the news, but it was just really interesting to see that.
So somewhat similarly, right? We have been in many situations where clients have come to us and had a no shit moment. They were like, our current vendor can't do this, can you? And the answer is always, I don't know, let's dig in and we'll try, right? And, knock on wood, we've been able to do it time and time again, right? And that's a great introduction to a client. And we've been able to keep most of those clients sort of on our books for years. And so, it's our sales team and our production team and our get sort of mad to us about us because we always say, yeah, we can do it, right? And then we put them on the spot and then they do it, right? But it's one of the things that I think sets us apart, and it has made me, always comfortable saying yes.
That's great. Yeah, and there's some risk in that, right? There's times
For sure.
when you're gonna take some risky moments, and they pay off big with people like you that are willing to dive in there and figure it out.
Yeah, the interesting thing about those moments, though, we've always been very transparent with clients and saying, here are the challenges. Here's what we think are some possible solutions, and we've been very collaborative in kind of talking through what are the possible solutions, and not just throwing kind of a textbook solution at it, but figuring out, and it's not just Ray, because I don't want to make it sound like it's just Ray, because we've got some people that are really amazing in terms of being able to find unique solutions to things. And when you figure out that unique solution, it's never me who's figuring out the unique solution on the Proteus side. But when you figure out the unique solution, I mean, it's like you've unlocked something. It's like you got the Enigma machine.
Yeah, the same is true for the law firm, though. I
Yeah,
mean,
true.
we get very creative and come up with really unique solutions. I mean, Sean gave an example about you with your case with the photograph. I mean, that was huge, and Hamish had a really important case where he was able to completely expose a witness, and it changed the entire trajectory of the case. Sean had a similar photograph case as well, where he was able to completely change, an outcome for a client and really set them up for a lot of future success. And I think Sean said it best, that it's those kind of things where you step in when other people say no or people say they can't do it. That's what engenders a lot of loyalty, and not only with the four of us, but with our clients. It also helps bind those relationships. I think, several of those examples, they're still clients of ours today. And it's because we stepped in and said yes when others said no.
That's awesome. Yeah, and double clicking into that a little bit, you don't stick around for 10 years and have all this success without some help from other folks.
Did you say double clicking into that?
I did say that, yeah.
I kind of like that.
I do too.
I'll loan that out to you. Y'all are allowed to use that one. So there's got to be a few unsung heroes around here that maybe aren't in this room right now that deserve some flowers.
Yeah, so on the Proteus side, obviously it starts with Austin, right? He's our ops guy. He's our king of ops, right? I don't know what, I think he's now our COO because he's earned it, right? And he came in when the business was growing past Ray, right? And he came in to help scale it to the next level, and that's been awesome, right? One of our original hires is Ryan Reef. He's still here. We say he's kind of the brain in the box, right? He's one of the guys who, when we say yes, he stays up all night and makes yes a reality, right? We have two women, both Sarahs, who run our review teams, right? And they're just awesome, right? They're great with people. They're great with each other, right? Gary is our number 2 ops guy. He's great, right? And then we've got an okay sales team, right? No,
It's improving.
So no, but Jim, we've known you for a lot of years, and you've come in and really put some grown up perspective to our sales team, and people are comfortable with you, and we're happy to have you. And of course, then Amy, who's your compadre in the marketing seat, and they're awesome, right? And that's just a few, right? There's many more, and there will be, hopefully, as we continue to grow and expand, more and more and more. But those are on the Proteus side. Those are a few.
How about on the law firm side? Who's helped grow the law firm on that side of things?
So we've got a great team. So I mean, principally, it's been the four of us, and this Ray's time has been more and more devoted, kind of on the Proteus side. He still jumps in from time to time, and as Sean said, he's got great lawyer chops too. But it's been largely the three of us. But Jeff Furminger is a partner here at our firm, a younger partner. He's been with us here for I don't even know now, probably 6 years. 7 years. He's fantastic. Came from kind of a untraditional avenue to get to litigation. He was somebody with a background in patent prosecution, so he was an intellectual property attorney. And intellectual property attorneys are you can have intellectual property attorneys that are also litigators, but that's kind of an unconventional way to get to litigation. And he's fantastic in terms of seeing issues. And we've recently added to the firm. I say recently, within the last year, for Jennifer Westerhouse Adams, and within the last 2 years, really, for Brian Warharden. Both of those were friends of ours and colleagues that we knew from Barnes that were fantastic attorneys, and so we brought them in, and they've continued to be fantastic attorneys here, not shockingly. And then on the transactional side, I'll let Hamish talk a little bit about Arkell, because he works closely with Arkell.
Yeah, Arkell is a young lawyer, fantastic transactional lawyer. He's great, cross T dot I sort of guy, hardworking, and just a really good young man. And then Kelly Paber is our office manager. I think without her, we'd all be lost. And she might be the only other person who works as hard as Sean, but she's smart.
I love it. No, that's great.
So while we're giving out flowers,
Oh boy.
I will literally give flowers to this person because she's my wife, right? And so when the Proteus,
That could have ended really badly.
I was waiting to hear who was going to give flowers to.
I was trying to let someone else say this, but in all candor, having, I always told Alicia we could never work together because we're husband and wife and we fought over little, unimportant things, but that's not been true, right? She's come here, she's really taken the lead on getting Proteus bills out on time, collections, wrapped in, and very systematic, and she's just great to have around, right? And I love, seeing her every day, and when she's in the office, it makes me really happy, and to the point where we share a wall, right? And so we couldn't do that if were not for her contribution and her willingness to put up with my shit. And then most recently, we've hired John's wife, Lisa Mattingly, and she is doing the same thing on the NBCB side. So it's really, it's kind of a family affair.
That's awesome. Oh, wow.
Not necessarily intended to be a family affair, but Sean's wife did such a great job that she kind of laid the groundwork for hopefully Lisa's success as well. And there's a couple people that we left out on the Proteus side that are fantastic. So Tess Card Cooper is fantastic in terms of data processing. Travis Morganson, Gary actually heads up that group, Gary Smith. So I mean, these are people that have we talk about right people for the right seats, and so these are people that have been vetted over a long period of time that you can count on. Yeah. They're foxhole people,
real professionals.
That's great, and I want to add to the Alicia part too. As a sales guy who has massively struggled in other organizations with getting bills out on time, the right way and correct, it's a true blessing to be able to just trust that that's going to happen right. And that things you ask for are heard, because we make all kinds of crazy deals in sales, and she kills it. So I echo that one for sure. Is there a moment where the team surprised you in the best possible way? Like, was there a moment where somebody did something that was shocking and amazing? You got an example of something along those lines?
On the Proteus side?
Sure, either one.
So I remember, and I'm trying to remember, so I won't necessarily disclose who the client was, but I remember where we had a situation. Sometimes judges, and we love all our Indianapolis judges, all our Indiana judges, and we've got a deep bench of very experienced judges, but sometimes there's a thought that you can push buttons and just produce large amounts of data in a very short amount of time. And I know there was one time in particular that I remember, and I had another client who was here visiting me for another case, and while this was going on for Proteus, in which Proteus was trying to respond to an emergency production that I believe was like about 1 million documents in a very, very short amount of time. And it did initially cause some anxiety, a little bit of consternation, and there was kind of a collective exhale, and then it was, let's figure out how we're going to get it done. And ultimately, I mean, of course, it got done in a very systematic and appropriate way without any issues at all. But I was amazed that we were able to do that kind of a heavy lift. So that was something in my mind. And I wasn't directly a part of doing the heavy lift, but it was an amazing heavy lift. And it was an amazing number of documents in a very, very short amount of time, in which clients could have been sanctioned, or which there could have been negative ramifications for not meeting the court's expectations, albeit that they weren't entirely reasonable.
I like that. That's kind of where I was going next too. Just in general, some success stories that you guys are really proud of, and let's do another Proteus one if you got another good success story from Proteus, and then maybe we'll do a law firm one as well.
So the person that I was really proud of in this context was Austin, right? So as we all know, in our space, there's certain tried and true software that people use and they're happy to use, and it works really well. But that's not all that's out there, right? And there's some frustrations with that particular platform and vendor, and we won't get into that deeply, right? But Austin was trained and had used that platform forever, right? And our people have used that platform forever. And when we decided to shift and say, you know what, we need to have other options for our clientele in the marketplace, there was initially some real, and realistic and okay pushback. And then when we decided to make the business case, and we said our business needs to offer video and quick data and have other solutions in the space, and we need you to get to yes. He did some soul searching, and he came back and he said, okay, I'm in. How do we make it happen, right? So that was really good, and I was really proud and happy to be part of the team with that.
It's awesome. Yeah, I think similarly, that both of those are great examples of, we have these core values at Proteus, and one of them is adaptability. And to me, that's a huge reason, why we started this. I mean, even the name Proteus, it means adaptable. And so, Hamish and I, we were giving a CLE in Texas when we came up with the name Proteus. I was reading a book by Kurt Vonnegut at the time called Player Piano, and the protagonist of the book was Paul Proteus. And I looked up the word, and I was like, man, this is really interesting. And we were having some Mexican food. It wasn't very good Mexican food.
It was not.
It was actually, and to be in Texas and have bad Mexican food is like a sin.
It was very disappointing.
It was very disappointing. But the name was great.
The name was great.
Yeah, it inspired a good name, and the margaritas were all right too. Yeah, but when we look for hiring people and letting people go and giving people awards, we look to our core values, and really we look to that adaptable spirit that Sean talked about and John exemplified in that example of and it was actually 2 million documents.
Was it 2 million? Okay.
Yeah. And so, but we had to collect 16 million documents in order to review them to get down to the 2 million. And
much more impressive than I thought even now.
Yeah, well,
I'm beaming.
That's all right. That's why I'm here. All right, Hamish, what do you got?
Now, I was going to do the 2 million documents. I didn't know that's what John was talking about. I just remember
16 million collected, though, so.
It takes a conflux of things to happen for something like that to occur successfully. You've got to have the right people in the right seats. You've got to have people who are willing to work incredibly hard under very difficult circumstances that they don't control. I mean, we were proceeding pursuant to a court order. And you've got to have people who are very good at what they do. And for me, seeing those things come together was very impressive, and it kind of made me, goes back to the genesis of Proteus. You asked earlier, were we nervous about starting Proteus? Proteus was one of the fundamental reasons that I was willing to jump and start the law firm. I believed in Proteus in day one. I believed in this team. I believed in Ray. And when you see this group of people, this sort of family of colleagues that have come together, all with different roles that are able to complete a project like that under those circumstances, it's really very remarkable.
That's awesome. I love the adaptability piece of it as well. I think we've all faced some challenges, and Proteus is out ahead of some challenges in the industry with the 800-pound gorilla software tool that's in the space.
Legacy tool.
Legacy tool is a good way to put it. And talking to a lot of clients out there, I understand their willingness to be open to new tools and try different things out, and not just send money down a path, spend bad money after good money, and be flexible. And so you guys and your ability to jump on that trend and to take a risk, I think it's paying off. We're seeing a lot of people that are willing to switch and very interested in different tools. And I'm curious if that was something that you guys were really excited to do and be pioneers in that area, or was there a lot of hesitation when we decided to make that switch?
Can't it be both?
It absolutely can. You can land on one side or the other, or whatever you think.
making the switch was really scary. Not the switch, but rounding out our product offerings, right? And being flexible and adaptable was scary, but then it also felt like going back to our roots, right? We started out saying we were technology and platform agnostic, right? And we're back there, right? And that's really true to who we are. We're going to find the best tool for the situation, for the client, and for the needs of the matter, right? And so once I started looking at it that way, it became really exciting and fun and really true to who we were. So once I get past the initial trepidation, I'm all in.
So, the thing, I agree with everything Sean just said. It is kind of a return to our roots. And one of the things that's important is when you think of all the, every platform has positives and negatives, and there are reasons to choose or to move away from a particular tool in a certain instance. And money's a part of that. And there is, the cost of the platform, the cost of hosting the data, the cost of using the tool, and we've benefited as a law firm in being able to use sophisticated technology. We've always had kind of a symbiotic relationship with Proteus. Proteus is bigger than the law firm, but the law firm and Proteus have been able to work hand in hand together. The law firm certainly uses Proteus as a resource in cases, and there are lots of cases that we wouldn't be able to use some of the more expensive, maybe the legacy tools, because it just doesn't make sense from a financial standpoint, particularly when we're kind of a technology forward, kind of stripped down, more cost appropriate law firm anyway. So we're pitching that we're providing expert legal services at the best price possible, and quite frankly, that we don't meet that objective with some of the legacy tools. And so we've been able, with having more of a platform agnostic, technology open series of tools, to be able to meet the objectives for NBCB, to be able to use more technology on cases that we might otherwise have been forced to not use tools at all, which is great.
That's great.
I'm excited about it, but I don't have to implement it, so it's easy. It's easy for me to be excited about it, but technology is changing, and I think new platforms will come up and be developed, and I think being open to that positions us to provide better services at a better price to our client. It just fundamentally does. Earlier we were talking about technology, and we talked about how lawyers are slow adapters of new technology. And this is an area, by using different platforms and being open to what's being developed in the marketplace and being agnostic as to the technology we use as a review platform, we can tailor the solution to the situation. And we can do that much more precisely, and I think that's good for our clients and it's good for Proteus.
I think that's an amazing point too, and you guys are uniquely positioned on both sides of this coin as founders of an eDiscovery company, but also practicing lawyers. And so how would you advise attorneys out there to really look at all of these options and not necessarily just go with the tool or the process or the company that has the biggest marketing budget, but maybe really understanding the partnership that they have with the eDiscovery team they may be working with, whether it's Proteus, whether it's internal, how would you guys advise those attorneys?
I actually think that's one of the things that we do the very best is and a large part of it's you, large part of it's Ray. I mean, we really, on some level, are consultants, and in the process of providing, looking at somebody's issues and looking at their problems and trying to figure out solutions, we're also trying to figure out what are the best tools, what are the best ways to kind of handle it in a cost-efficient, cost-effective way. And so, I think that's kind of an upfront discussion that Ray and the team have.
So ironically, we're talking about technology, but the answer to your question is look at the people. And I think what has always been a differentiator for us are the people. We've invested in our people, we believe in our people. And we talked earlier, and I hate to keep saying nice things about him, but Ray has a very unique You're welcome. Very unique skill set and ability to cut through, I call it noise, the noise in the eDiscovery space, and identify the best way to tackle a problem. We talked earlier about being problem solvers. I think if you're a law firm, look for vendors, look for people, look for relationships that meet those requirements, that are creative, they're problem solvers, they're subject matter experts, because those people then know how to use the technology in a way that is most beneficial.
People that will be honest with you about talking through the solutions.
Yeah, I agree with, I love all that. And one thing that I've noticed, having been at a couple of larger companies, sometimes a client may call up and there's a process that's already in place, and they just kind of get shoved into the process wherever the person on the other end of the phone thinks they may fit. And one of the things that I've noticed about Proteus is we really ask a lot of questions, listen to what's going on, listen to the desired outcomes that our clients have, and then try and prescribe the exact right solution, regardless of what the most profitable workflow may be, or what deals have been made behind the scenes. I think Proteus does a really good job of trying to figure out the right tool for the job every time.
Yeah, I mean, we're not, one of our three uniques is that we're litigator-led. And, that can mean a whole host of things. But in this context, it means that we ask the questions to understand what the right solution is for that particular litigation or investigation. If your lawyer came to you with the same exact solution to every single problem every single time, you'd be finding a new lawyer. And so what we try to do and what we pride ourselves on at Proteus is that we try to find the right tool for the right moment. And we don't, that's a big part of the technology agnostic stance that we had and have and will continue to have, is that we're not going to push you into a one-size-fits-all because your solution is unique. It's a one-size-fits-one, and that's what we try to find.
That's great.
Because your problem is unique. I mean, that's exactly right.
So 10 years down, what do the next 10 years look like for you guys?
So we've hired some younger people. I'm speaking because I'm the oldest one in the room, right? So we've hired some younger people, Ray's younger than I am. We've hired Arkell Shaw, who Hamish mentioned before, and he's a rock star and a stud, and I think is going to be one of the real leaders of the next firm, whatever it looks like, right? When I'm out to pasture, but we're really looking to expand our practice areas, right, to fulfill, our, we say we're cradle to grave, business lawyers. If you're starting or you're ending and every problem in between, we can fix it, right? And we largely can, with very few exceptions, right? We're going to fill in those exceptions, number one, get younger, number two, and, expand to the level that we're comfortable with without destroying and undermining our all for one for all partnership, right? So that's the opportunity and the challenge, and that's where we're going for the next 10 years.
And I'm anticipating we're going to all be here for 10 more years.
Yeah, for sure. So you talked a little bit about challenges. What challenges do you think you guys are going to face, or the industry might face in the next 10 years?
I mean, the big one that's scary is, right, the robots, right, the AI and what they're going to do to, both of our businesses and to many of the other businesses out there, right? In some ways, we're beneficiaries of the fact that lawyers and judges in particular are slow to adapt to new technology because, that will give us a little bit more runway. But the people who do it better and get ahead of this and use it to, sort of make workflows more efficient, right? And use the tools in a way that gives better client service at a better value are going to be the ones who are, taking that challenge and making it an opportunity and grow. And so that's what we're really focused on and really trying to do.
And we've been proactive in looking at AI solutions. We call it kind of affectionately the robots.
Yeah.
But I mean, both on the law firm side and on Proteus' side, we've been taking a look at. I mean, Ray has for some time. This hasn't just been a recent thing. He's been looking at opportunities with different generative AI, different types of things that you could do for Proteus, and sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes it doesn't make sense, and that's all part of figuring out the right solution for the problem. So I mean, it's not something where we don't consider those things. It's all just something that goes into the equation.
Yeah, and on that, there's no replacement for good judgment. And that's it's at the core of who we are, and it's part of the reason we jump together, and that part of it's not going to change. And in fact, when we look to expand or we look into these other markets or other tools or other technologies, we look at the judgment sort of calculation, right? Does this demonstrate good judgment? What does this person have good judgment? And that core, no matter what the technology is or what changes there are in the market, is still going to be there. And that's what that's what they pay for, and that's what they come to expect from us. And, we're going to continue to live up to and exceed those expectations.
That's great. So we'll start to close a little bit with we'll do some reflections here. What's something, I know, right? What's something about this 10-year journey that people would never know that you guys have been through, or about the journey itself, unless, you told them some behind the scenes story?
There was a CLE, sort of infamous CLE, that we have, that we put on, that one of the general counsels, we didn't know it at the time, of a client that was going to be one of our biggest clients in the history of Proteus and the firm. And so we, for some reason, decided to put on an 8-hour CLE, right? And, there's 4 of us, that's a lot of work, right? So we brought some friends in on the dais and gave them some assignments, but ultimately it was the 4 of us who put this together, right? And so the night before, we were going through, our various documents and slide decks and who's going to do what and things like that. And so I'll never forget, John looking at Ray's slide for an hour presentation and going, this isn't going to cut it. We call up Ray, all in a huff, and Ray's like, don't worry, I got it. I can do this in my sleep, no problem. And so the next day we're all worried, and we were like, all right, Ray's going to fall on his face. Let's think of some questions after he's 2 minutes into the slide and he's done with his presentation. And so, it turns out that Ray got through the entire hour presentation on this single slide, and we didn't have to go into our bag of tricks with the various questions and stuff. So that was well done, and also heart attack inducing at the same time.
He had like 2 slides, maybe. But
there was
introduction.
There was the call me slide right at the end. Any questions, call me.
I had like 30 slides, and so I was a little concerned at that bridge, and he was like, "Oh, I can talk for 45 minutes to an hour on these 2 slides," and he did.
Not much has changed. And usually he does his slides the morning of any presentation, that's for sure.
Actually, that last slide was the last slide he ever put together himself. Normally he just asks someone to do it, and then he reads it right before he goes on stage.
In his defense, it was a very, very significant eDiscovery case that had come down that he was able to, that had tremendous ramifications that he was able to talk about. And not talk about because he was reading it off slides, but talk about it because he knew the case intimately and knew all the holdings. And so he was talking about what was really kind of a cornerstone case that was redefining eDiscovery, and that's what he talked about for 45 minutes.
Makes sense.
A, content.
A content.
B, delivery.
Oh, thank you.
I also remember, so on the law firm side, we had a big trial, one of the first, big trials during COVID that we were aware of that we had to pull off, and it was all remote, right? And the night before there was a huge snowstorm, so we all had to stay overnight here and, work all night to get it done. And we pulled it off. And while it was not without its bumps and its scary moments, right, we pulled it off and we won the case. And so that will always be a fond memory for me.
Love it. Now, you guys have touched on this a little bit, but I mean, I don't want to make your heads any bigger than they already are, but you guys are really funny. I've laughed more here than I think I've ever laughed at any job I've ever had in my life. There has to be a million funny stories that have happened over the years, and most of them probably about Biederman. But can you share one of those or a couple of them?
Literally not one we can talk about on camera.
No.
If I could say something more about kind of reflecting back.
No.
So, I mean, one of the things on the law firm side, because we haven't really talked about the law firm side in terms of, we've had some significant victories on the law firm side. We've done some really amazing stuff on the law firm side. And honestly, we did some amazing things at our firm before. Obviously, we all came from Barnes & Thornburg, and great firm, practiced with very, very good attorneys at Barnes & Thornburg, but we all were kind of in our own lanes. We're litigators, and we had different skill sets and things, and I don't want to make it sound like we were one-trick ponies and things, but we were in specific practice groups, and part of jumping, one of the things that people wouldn't necessarily appreciate, or maybe we didn't all appreciate, we needed to become much more versatile and rely upon our core kind of litigation strengths, but be flexible to do some different kind of commercial litigation, maybe still a little bit of product liability, some different transactional things, get into some investigative, governmental type, all kinds of different things, tax work. And so we have used our same skills, but we've been forced to stretch and grow, and we've been tremendously successful doing that. And I think it's made us all better lawyers, and we've certainly had more first chair, more kind of autonomy than we would have. That's not a slight. It's just we would have been around more people who shared and carried the water on different functions, and we've been forced. We share with each other, but we've been forced to carry a lot of the water ourselves. And sometimes there's nobody else to carry the water, and so you either got to do it or you spill the water. And we haven't spilled any water. So that's been a big thing for 10 years.
Yeah, funny story. So Hamish has this couch in his office, and it's traveled with us to every office location we've ever had, and it's got no legs on it. It's just on the floor, couch on the floor thing, and everybody asks, why do you have this couch? Why, And we moved into our first space, and we inherited it because the people that were there, they lost the legs. They're like, we don't need this thing. But it's come with us everywhere. And there are lots of stories about the couch. But one that sticks with me is Sean. He's a great guy, notoriously bad at keeping track of his wallet. And so he's got wallet and second wallet. And so, yeah, he's got a backup wallet. And so he lost wallet. And he was asking everybody about it, and he's like, "Oh no, that was second wallet, and I lost it." And so 2 weeks go by, and he still can't find wallet or second wallet. And then Hamish sits on the couch and leans back, and there it is, second wallet stuck in one of the cushions. So that was just a great story for both of you.
Never lost a wallet.
For very long.
Not permanently.
Yeah. That couch is great, though. Everybody asks about it as we walk by Hamish's office. And I consider myself a little bit of an athlete. I've got a hard time getting in and out of that thing because it is so low on the floor. Pretty amazing, though. Good job keeping it around. All right, I'll get you out of here on this one then. And you can all answer this one. What are you most grateful for in this partnership?
So I've said a lot of nice things about my partners, and so I won't go back into that anymore. I'm really grateful for the men and women who I worked with prior to this place and as colleagues that helped me develop as a practitioner and as a human to have the confidence to do something like this and to pull it off and to feel like I can do it, right? That's number one. I'm also grateful to all of the clients who we've had over the past 10 years who it couldn't be this without them, right? They've trusted us with their problems and idiosyncrasies and opportunities, and some of them are really scary. Some of them are bet the company, right? And you'd feel more comfortable going to a big firm, and they've yet, decided to go with us, and I won't ever forget that, and so I'm really grateful for for those things.
Yeah, I would add to that, and I've said nice things about you guys, so I also won't say any more. But grateful to everyone that's worked for us. All the great hires that we currently have, and all the past employees too that helped us get to where we are. Everybody contributed something and pulled on the oar. Whether it was for a short time or a long time, and wish them all well in where they're currently at, if it's not with us. And I think I keep in touch with several, and it's it's really nice to see how all of that spiders out, right? That what we're doing has been built by all the people that work for us and work with us, and really grateful that we've just been surrounded by great people.
Good call.
So we've covered our clients and our employees, and I agree with everything that Sean and Ray said. I'll add our families. I'm very grateful for the support we've had individually and collectively from our families. You asked if we were scared when we jumped. The answer was yes. Probably not nearly as scared as our families were. And yet, for the most part, most of the time, they've been supportive. What we do is not easy. I know I come home like a bear with a sore head sometimes, and everyone puts up with me, and they love me, and they make sure I get the support I need to get back up the next morning and come back in and do it again.
I never come home like a bear because I'm the nice guy. I'm not the smartest guy or the hardest working guy, but I'm the nice. No, I'm just teasing.
You're not that nice.
Yeah, thank you. So with all this, the thing I would add is it's taken a lot of people to get us to this. So it's not the four people in this room, and that's been a really fun part of it. So one of the things that's been really fun is it hasn't just been about running a law firm. It hasn't just been about running an eDiscovery company. There's been a real entrepreneurial side of this, and there's been a real side that's been collaborative, just not only with us, but with meeting and talking to people. That includes clients, but also just people in the legal community, other lawyers at other firms, including all of the lawyers that we knew at Barnes, but branching out to other firms and spending more time. I personally, and there's no reason I couldn't have done that before, but I personally was in a litigation practice group where a lot of our litigation wasn't in Indiana, and so I wasn't necessarily talking all the time with local Indiana attorneys. I wasn't as involved with the Indy bar as what I should have been, and it's been fantastic to get to know all of those people and to be a part of all that stuff. And in the meantime, we started the eDiscovery section of the Indy bar, which has been fun. We've been pioneers with that. Got to help write some of the rules, for what was the commercial court.
Yeah.
Yep. Stuff that we never would have thought we would have been able to do. And so some of that was part of this kind of entrepreneurial getting out and being pioneers and talking to people. And interestingly enough, people are supportive and they want you to jump in and help with all those things. So that's been super fun.
That's great. Well, you guys have changed the legal landscape here in Indianapolis and the eDiscovery landscape on a national level. On behalf of your clients and current and previous employees, I want to thank you guys. I think you guys have done an amazing job. It's been fun for me to watch you guys over the years, turn this in from a dream into something that is amazing and something to be very, very proud of. And so I appreciate you sitting down and chatting with me. This has been super cool. 10 years, here's to the next 10. Congratulations. Good job, y'all.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jimmy Norman.
Thanks for being a part of it.